Honestly, anytime A24 comes out with a movie, specifically horror, I'm going to be the first one in line to see it 9 out of 10 times. I like almost every horror movie they put out, but then honestly also A24 put out the worst movie on my worst movies of 2021 list, so didn't know what to expect from this.
Well, that was a movie.
Hello, welcome back to Simon's Rants. I'm Simon, and today I just saw Bodies, 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 which, according to IMDb, let's say what IMDb says it is. It does say it's a comedy horror thriller, and that is the truth. And I think right now it's got a 5.9. It does have a 68% on Metacritic, but a 5.9 so far on opening night. And I think a big part of the reason why, I'm getting into it already, I like this movie. A big part of the reason why is because people didn't know that this is a comedy that parades itself as a horror. This isn't a horror movie that has some funny parts in it. This movie is a comedy. It's a satire. My thought going into it was that it may be kind of like Scream, which is both a horror movie and a satire of horror thrillers, slasher movies. This isn't that though. It really is just a comedy that happens to be very, very dark and take shape into a horror type story with horror type graphics and violence. In case you don't know what the plot of this movie is, it's about a group of Gen Z kids plus one older guy that are having a house party in the middle of a hurricane. Things get a little bit lit. They're having alcohol, and then that turns to weed, to coke, to everything under the sun. And then they decide that they want to play a game called Bodies, 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 which for anybody of my generation or a little bit older, you'd call it Werewolf instead, where you've got a killer who goes around tagging people, and then everybody else has to decide who's the killer based on clues or trying to just figure it out, like, oh, I know it wasn't them because I was with them when this kill happened. Stuff like that. But then anyway, people start actually dying, and so they have to find out who is the real killer. Now, if you saw the trailer, you may have been put off. I know some people were put off by the Gen Z slang in this. You're triggering me. You're silencing me.
You're always gaslighting me.
You fucking trigger me.
You are so toxic.
Relax.
You're silencing me. Did you just fucking shoot me? I can't believe you're making this about you.
If you weren't really paying attention, you may have thought, oh, this is just a really shitty horror movie for Gen Z. No. This is a really great comedy for millennials making fun of Gen Z. So if you're millennial, maybe even Gen X, you will find this movie hilarious because it is a satire of Gen Z. And maybe Gen Z people will find it too if you hate the slang that gets thrown out, like gaslighting, like I said, the silencing, the triggering, all of that overused bullshit that people are just spewing all the time. And trust me, I know every generation has their bullshit. Millennials are really cringy in their own way, but Gen Z, they're just so beautifully awful and annoying. So this movie does a great job of making fun of them, and this movie is hilarious. It's wonderfully written. The mystery, the thriller, the horror side of it is actually pretty interesting too. You've got some interesting scenarios and some really creepy imagery thrown in there. There's a couple of shots where there's somebody in the background that nobody sees. I really enjoyed this movie a lot, so much more than I thought I would. I went into this thinking, I'll either think it's okay, or hey, maybe this will end up being that really bad horror movie that I thought it could also be. I went in hoping it would be funny and hoping it would be a good satire, but also kind of afraid it wouldn't be. And luckily for me, it was even better than I thought it would be. I'm ready to give this movie a 7 out of 10. I enjoyed this movie a lot. There's some weaknesses to it. I think some of the writing is weak at times. I think it drags a little bit too much, especially at the end. I thought this movie could have been a little bit shorter, a little bit more neat, but ultimately it kept me guessing throughout, which is a big thing that I love in movies of this genre. Well, I guess this isn't really, like I said, this isn't exactly horror. It's more comedy than it is horror, but still, when it's these murder whodunit type movies, I like there to be a little bit of guessing in there, even if it is a comedy, like the Pink Panther, something like that, A Shot in the Dark. I like there to be a mystery there, even if it is a comedy. And the mystery of this movie, ironically, even though it was the first thing I guessed, it made me leave that guess alone until the last 15 minutes again. I started guessing other things because I thought, nah, surely that's not true. So that's good writing. I remember actually saying the same thing about Jordan Peele's Us when I saw that. And not saying that this is as well written as Jordan Peele's Us, but it's the same thing where it's like, it presents you the answer immediately. And that's not a spoiler because I don't think everybody would think the way that I do. So that's not a direct spoiler. It doesn't give it away immediately, but I picked up on it immediately and then forgot about it and gave up on that idea and came back an hour and a half later before going, yeah, wait, no, I think that is right. So I love that. I love a movie that is clever enough to do that. So this movie to me is hilarious. It is also cleverer than you might think just on the trailer. So I definitely recommend it, even if you saw the trailer and didn't get it. Trust me, this is a comedy horror, not a horror comedy. This is a comedy that has some horror in it. So I wholeheartedly recommend it, even if you haven't heard of it, even if you were put off by the trailer. If what I've said sounds appealing, definitely check it out. I don't want to say it was mismarketed because it was marketed perfectly, but there's a lot of people out there that haven't been paying attention and so didn't understand the marketing. So believe me and go see it because I really enjoyed it. So yeah, I don't know that there's much more that I want to say without getting into spoilers. It's fun. It is a lot of fun, and honestly kind of surprising coming from A24. It doesn't feel like an A24 movie. It feels like they're expanding out a little bit. This doesn't feel like an indie movie. It doesn't feel like the artsy horror at all. Like, this is a comedy. It feels a lot like a comedy in almost every way. When it needs to turn up the thriller side of things, it does, but it doesn't feel like A24 at all. But it's good, and I enjoyed it a lot. So I'm gonna get into spoilers now, so if you don't want anything spoiled, you should click away, go watch it, come back, and we can talk about it then. But if you're new here, please remember to subscribe. Thanks, guys. Bye. So, spoilers. Yeah, so the ending, the plot twist is that the first person to die is Pete Davidson's character, and he just slams up against the window with blood coming out of his neck. And my first thought was, maybe he killed himself. Maybe he did, because they're all drunk, they're all idiots, they're all these moron kids running around doing drugs and really high and drunk. So what if he just killed himself? Because every death after that is seemingly self-explainable. Like, they end up on camera killing, like, right there for you, like, written into the story. Everybody sees it. They kill the next character because they think it's in self-defense, and you know immediately he's not really the bad guy. That's not happening. He's not the bad guy. So that death is explained away. Then the next death is seemingly somebody fell down the stairs, and they say she was pushed, but it's like, that's pretty easily explainable too. You could have just fallen down the stairs, especially when you're doing drugs and drinking so much. And then the next death, you once again, one character in self-defense or sort of accidentally shoots the other. So it's like, all these deaths, the only inexplicable death is the first one. And maybe it was an accident, was my thought, and it really did hold up. But like I said, they did a good job of making you kind of forget about that and move on. And so I had all these other theories go that were slowly being proven wrong one by one, because what they do is a really good job of making you suspect one person and then killing them, and then suspect another person and kill them. And it's not like they're making it really obvious that you're supposed to suspect this person, but it's like the really cliche thing is like, so Pete Davidson, you're thinking, well, he says the line, it would be too obvious to be me. So you're like, maybe they're doing the Knives Out thing where it's the most obvious thing in the world, so you think, oh, it's not him because it's too obvious, and then it is them, but it's not. And then the next thought is, okay, well, there's the guy who's the vet, so maybe he's got some PTSD thing going on, and then that's their thought too. And then you find out he's a veterinarian, not an army vet, which was great. That was a hilarious part. And so it's not him. And then it's like, well, maybe it's the actress chick because she's just doing all this crying and playing the victim, and then she dies. So I was like, the only next thing that I expected that didn't come into play at all was I was thinking, well, maybe it's the main character / girlfriend of the main character, the black one, thinking maybe she, because this would be a version of Expectations, is that she brought her brand new girlfriend into this situation to get revenge on all of these other people and then pin the murders on her. So I thought that for a minute, and that never played out in any way. But anyway, that was just a theory that doesn't matter, so I don't know what I'm talking about it. One thing I will say is that the ending was a little bit iffy to me, because they start going down this rabbit hole of the two main character girls that are a couple don't trust each other now, kind of at the end, because people are still dying and now they're the only two left. So what's going on? Because it couldn't just all be freak accidents or just deliberately murdering each other. And so they get into this fight about like, oh, let me see your texts. And it felt weird. It felt just kind of off-putting. But I guess also one defense for that I can say is that I thought it was a good commentary, because like I said, this whole thing is a satire of Gen Z. And one of the points that they were making, I think, in that is that all of these girls, I guess the guy too, Pete Davidson's character, all of these Gen Zs, because not Greg or whatever his name was, not the older guy, but all of the younger people, they all cared about appearances more than anything. And so you could argue that she would rather be thought of as the murderer than somebody that would cheat on her girlfriend. And that, so like, okay, I get that. That is some interesting satire. That's some interesting point to make. But still, the ending to me just fell a little bit flat. They started running away from each other, and it's like, either you trust each other at this point or you don't. Like, it's kind of just, it felt uneven, and I didn't like that last scene or two. But aside from that, I really enjoyed this movie. Sure, there's a couple of jokes here or there that didn't land, but for the most part, I thought it was hilarious. I loved the use of Gen Z slang. I loved the use of just mocking these young people, just doing stupid things and turning on each other as quickly as they can and being full of shit, like acting all high and mighty, acting self-righteous, but then ultimately having no integrity whatsoever. I love that. Also, the rant about podcasts, I love that, and how hard it is to build a following. I love that. I loved so many parts about this movie, and I really didn't expect to. So, oh, the acting was all really good too, by the way. I enjoyed all of the acting in this movie. Writing was good, directing was good, cinematography was good. It really just surprised me how well made this movie was, because even coming into this expecting to like it a little bit, or hoping to like it a little bit, I didn't think the reasons would be good writing and good camera work. Like, I really didn't think that, or even good acting. I thought, oh, maybe it'll be pretty funny, and it was. But it was also all of those other things too. It's just a legitimately good movie. So yeah, like I said, I wholeheartedly recommend it. It surprised me. Obviously, it's not like an Oscar contender. I'm not saying that the camera work and directing was that good, but it is, for what it is, the genre it is, and the style it is, it was very well done and very entertaining. And I think, unfortunately, like I said, it's got a 5.9. I think a lot of people are gonna miss the joke. I think they're going to not appreciate it, and it really should be. It was one of my favorite movies of the year so far. I really legitimately enjoyed it. It's in my top 5 right now. Like, I enjoyed this movie a lot. Now, it's not going to stay there probably, but I think it'll end up in my top 10. Like I said, 7 out of 10. Legitimately good movie. So that's what I think. What did you guys think though? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, don't forget to like, share, and if you're new here, subscribe. Thanks guys. Bye.